End of Watch is one of my favorite movies of all time for one reason, that it feels real. Now, there are many reasons that it feels real. And no, it's not just because it was filmed in the found footage style. It feels real because it broke the rules when it came to filmmaking, making for some of the best character chemistry and most natural scenes to ever hit Hollywood. Which is weird because it's somewhat of an independent film rather than a Hollywood film. This is David Ayer. He directed End of Watch, so keep him in mind because I'm going to be talking about him a lot. After writing the screenplay for this movie in an astounding 6 days, Ayer didn't go to a big Hollywood studio to get it made. He instead talked with 7 smaller production companies and got a measly budget of $7 million. Now, $7 million to make a film like this is nothing.
To put that into perspective of Ayer's other films that he wrote, the first Fast and Furious had a budget of $38 million, and Training Day had a budget of $45 million. Fury, which he wrote and directed, had a budget of $68 million, and the upcoming Suicide Squad, which he also wrote and directed, has a rumored budget of $250 million.
Ayer has proven that he's capable of working with big budget studios and finances, so why did he decide to make End of Watch on such a low budget? Well, working with low-key production studios gives Ayer much more free reign and creativity. On a regular big-budget Hollywood movie, they have a set script that they must stick to, and changes in the script have to go through 20 different people. On this film, Ayer had the ability to literally create a new scene in the morning and have it filmed by the end of the day. This scene, where our 2 heroes enter a small convenience store and set up the next scene, was thought up in one day. David Ayer scoped out the store in the morning, got all the paperwork signed, set up the lights, and was done filming the scene by the afternoon. That would never ever happen on a big budget movie, and I think Ayer knew he had to have that freedom in order to create the final project, because this run and gun style filmmaking was the basis for creating a naturally flowing film, both visually and story-wise. Visually, Ayer decided to create a found footage mixed with regular shaky cam hybrid type thing. I say that because some of the cameras and shots exist within the world of the characters. Because our main character, Brian, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, is carrying around a camera documenting his life for a film project. This also created the ability for the main character to break the fourth wall pretty often.
The way red corpuscles carry oxygen through the body, paperwork carries information through the department.
But there are also many times where no one is operating the camera in this world, and it's just a regular shot. You'd think that editing together these 2 different types of camera methods would get distracting or puzzling, but it's put together so seamlessly and flows so nicely you don't even notice it, and it actually works really well. That flow is something the filmmakers put a lot of focus on. Rather than playing by the rules and going the traditional route, they often would film in the order to get the optimal flow and realism. Like in the scene where Mike, our other protagonist, played by Michael Pena, drops his badge and engages in a man versus man fistfight against Mr. Trey. The 180-degree rule, which is the first thing you learn in filmmaking, is broken many times in this scene. It's the idea that your shots in a particular scene should always stay on one side of the characters and action so the geography of the scene doesn't confuse your audience. It is the basic guideline when it comes to setting up a spatial relationship. But in this scene, breaking that rule just works. You are still able to tell where the action is taking place and follow what is actually going on in the scene. This really puts you right in the action, and as Ayer himself said, it lends to the sense of reality. Another big part of creating the look of the film was the camera equipment. Ayer took a big leap of faith and filmed a great majority of the film on consumer available cameras, rather than big, expensive Hollywood cameras or setups. This created a whole different organic look to the movie, and it really made it stand out from other mainstream films, which nowadays have more often than not started to look more and more similar to one another. But that's another story. The point is, every camera and technique was on the table, and no idea was a bad idea. This allowed them to constantly have up to 4 cameras running in every scene from multiple angles, giving them a lot of freedom in the editing room and not being tied down to a set script or storyline. The point of this was to make sure they were always capturing the best look and performance to put you right in the action and the lives of these characters. Now, that's important. The lives of these characters. You can talk about what a genius David Ayer is all you want, but the reality is, one of the biggest reasons this movie works is because of the characters. The actors in this movie all perform their characters perfectly, and I mean perfectly. The overall chemistry with this cast is unparalleled. Take Jake Gyllenhaal and Anna Kendrick, for example. Kendrick's character Janet is Gyllenhaal's new girlfriend, but he sees something different in her than other women he's been with. He feels a real connection. Now, instead of David Ayer showing them go on a nice date that ends well, he creates a scene that can do more to show the connection in their relationship than words ever could. This scene was completely improvised by the two characters while Ayer was in the back of the car, but he immediately knew it would end up in the final cut because their connection was shown in a realistic way. The thing that really officially brings Janet into Brian's life is when he brings her to the quinceañera. The police squad is Brian's family. They mean everything to him. And his patrol officer partner, Mike Zavala, is like his brother. Brian bringing his new girlfriend to the celebration mirrors almost bringing a girlfriend home to meet his parents for the first time. He's seeking for their approval of her because they are his family.
But you mess with one person, you have the whole family after you.
Well, that's the way to do it.
The scene comes to an end when Gabby tells Brian,
I like her, Brian.
and Brian knows his family accepts her. Now, let's talk about family for a second. The one relationship that really holds this film together is that between Brian Taylor and Mike Zavala. Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena give arguably one of the best duo performances in movie history. All their witty, improvised, or ad-lib banter just creates more of an attachment to these characters, and an attachment that further drags you into the realism of this world. This is a cop movie, but a cop movie comes second to a movie just about two guys, two bros that happen to be cops. Some of the most memorable parts of this movie are just these two guys being real people, talking about real people things. They joke around, they have fun, but when it comes down to it, they know what they have to do, and they are good at doing it.
What the fuck is it?
Creating that realism in the characters makes them so much more relatable and human, and you naturally end up rooting for them.
Let Rogers AK.
The interesting part about how David Ayer showed this chemistry was capturing it in a natural way. There were plenty of scenes that made it into the final cut of this movie that were ad-libbed. Ayer was able to hand over the camera to Gyllenhaal and Pena and get them to drive around LA. They had free reign to make additions to the script and create totally new scenes, like this one, just because they were able to do their jobs naturally. Their loyal, brotherly love shines through in the parts of this film when they need to get down to business or control a situation. Like when two fellow patrol officers were attacked and all of a sudden they are thrown into a very serious situation.
It's clear over here. Cross it.
They know exactly what steps they need to take to tracking down this guy, but also keep each other safe. And they use great teamwork to perfectly defuse the situation.
Go, split. Get the fuck off or I will blow your fucking head off! I'm done, I ain't resisting.
Or when they rescue the little girl from the house fire and deliver, in my opinion, one of the most powerful shots in the movie.
Fuck away, man! I'm right here. Get away, bro. I'm right here, dude. Bro, get away, dude. I'm right here. Shut up. You fucking freak out you. Shut up. We're good, bro. Shut up.
Another extremely powerful shot comes a little later in the film, and it's this one. This shot takes you out of the handheld look for just a moment. It's a godlike shot that sort of signifies the impending doom of our protagonists. The tilting action represents their lives about to be sort of spun out of control and creates an uneasy feeling in the audience. And then, just as quickly as you were introduced to this shot, it ends, and you're placed right back in the action. Then, obviously, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it yet, but one of our characters' journey comes to an end. What's interesting is how they foreshadowed this before it happens. Now, obviously, foreshadowing a character's death is nothing new, not even in cop movies. But the way it happens is what's interesting. Brian says,
I would lay down my life.
and then Mike says,
I would take a photo. Why don't you guys get back?
and that's exactly what happens, in that order. Brian holds his ground in order to take out the enemy. And Mike ends up taking multiple bullets for Brian. And it saves his life. Everything we've learned about these characters leading up to this point is all used to give the audience a greater feeling of sadness and have a much greater impact on us when he dies. This is a character we have grown to love in just a short hour and 50 minutes, and just like that, he's taken from us. The very final scene of this movie confused me at first, since it's just Brian and Mike palling around in the car and joking about meaningless things. But after giving it a few more watches, I realized just how meaningful this scene is. And it's because it's what the movie is. Yes, it's a movie about two cops, but more importantly, it's a movie about two friends. and all the things they go through together. The whole film is centered around the friendship, and adding this seemingly meaningless bonding moment at the end just really drives home that point and captures the movie as a whole. A story in friendship grounded in realism, creating an incredibly entertaining film. And at the end of the day, or the end of watch, as police officers say, isn't that what film is supposed to be? Entertaining?
Let's go fight crime or something.
Okay.